Hello, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us on this Sunday for our HBCU to Startup, where we have Tani Brown, who is the head of partnerships at Jopwell. And so for those who are joining us for the first time, we're going to start with just a brief introduction, and then we're going to just jump into Q&A. So if you're on and you're listening, there is an icon, looks like a 9 square icon at the top of your screen. You can click on it and ask questions, and we'll answer them. So Tani, you're up.
Hey,
Hey,
thanks for having me.
no problem. So just briefly, could you just introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Tani Brown, and I am the head of partnerships for Jopwell.com. We are a tech-enabled, minority-focused recruiting and hiring platform that connects underrepresented individuals to opportunities with companies.
Okay. And so you've mentioned Jobwell, and can you tell just a little bit more about the platform and how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, we are building a two-sided marketplace that connects candidates with companies. So if you're a candidate, you can log into Jopwell, create a full profile, list all of your kind of professional, educational background, history, a resume, information about yourself, and who you are as a diverse candidate, what kind of leadership and personal kind of backgrounds and experiences do you bring to the table. And then we make that information searchable by our partner companies. And we are industry agnostic. So we service everyone from the tech industry to finance to the nonprofit sector. We have about 40 current partner companies, and we're growing really quickly. And we just finished Y Combinator for the 2015 summer class. So we were in San Francisco this summer, working on our platform, building out our customer base in addition to our pool of candidates. And now we are back in New York City, where we're based.
So let's quickly go to, so you were in Y Combinator and also in the Silicon Valley area. What was it like being a part of the Y Combinator?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so hard to describe in words because I don't know when I will ever experience something like that in my life. It was such a special opportunity to be surrounded by just really some of the smartest folks I've ever had to deal with at a professional level. The program is great because it really serves as a connector and a network to enable companies to connect with just some of the country and the world's leading thought providers, leading investors, other companies that are really trying to change the world through solving a huge market problem. And so for me, who started my career in technology but primarily in sales, it was an amazing opportunity to just push myself and be surrounded by people much smarter than me, who had dealt with potentially life-changing ideas before, and really bringing that to the world.
Cool. And I just want to remind those who are watching through the live stream, if they have a question, there is a 9 square icon on the top of your screen. You can click on that and you can ask questions at any time, and Tani will answer them.
Yes.
So let's talk about the unique demographics of your team. One, Jopwell was founded by 2 Black founders, right? And
yes.
for the most part, most of your team members identify as being Black, right?
Yes, Black and Latino is really what our team is primarily made up of currently.
And can you just talk about the culture in terms of how does that provide for a unique culture in comparison to other roles or positions that companies that you worked at?
Yeah, it's such a great question. So for me, I grew up in a multicultural household. My mother's Japanese American, my father's African American, and so I've grown up in a really intense kind of multicultural environment my entire life. And I had never been surrounded in that setting, in a professional setting, of people really from the exact same kind of cultural background as myself. And it's one of the first times in my entire life that I felt that I can be 100% authentically my complete self. So, classic example that probably a lot of women will identify with, certain days your hair is just an issue. And, your coworkers, because they don't have maybe that same level of cultural competency, as you do, and it's no fault of their own, but they just didn't come from a community where, getting your hair done is an issue, and who does your hair is an issue, and the products you use are an issue, and that directly correlates to your performance at work and your self-confidence and how you feel. And so to be surrounded by other women of color who, love my Japanese mother, but she had no idea what to do with my hair growing up. At 27, I'm getting all of a sudden this brand new education about how to be myself. And I know it sounds silly, but my two coworkers, Anastasia and Victoria, they're amazing. They have really just taken me under their wing, and it's the first time where I'm actually using proper women's beauty products for my hair. And and as a result, when I come to work and I get tips, and it's not, I'm not being looked at as an outsider. They're honestly trying to be my friend, be my coworker. If we have a meeting, they want to make sure that I'm confident and that I'm prepared. And so that aspect of Jopwell in my life has been just tremendous. And it's something I've never gotten to experience before. It's just kind of this immediate understanding and kind of collective identity about who I am. When something happens in the news, there's a collective consciousness towards what we're doing. And it's a really powerful feeling to come to work.
So the water cooler talk is a bit different. You guys are at the water cooler talking about hair types, conditioners, no poo treatments.
Yeah, exactly. I have a box of Amazon products over there, and this new comb that I just bought, courtesy of my coworkers, because they said that I was using just the wrong products. And now I have my Denman brush.
Oh, the Denman brush.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that is definitely a lifesaver. I have my Denman brush, and I can't go anywhere without it. So.
Yeah, I had no clue again that this was even a thing, and again, it's because I come from a multicultural background. I don't have a Black mother, but it sounds silly, but these are the things that really make quality of life at work so wonderful. And of course, we understand that we are a diversity recruitment company, and so as we grow, we definitely are extremely sensitive to how we grow and our culture and things like that. And so it's really wonderful to have a starting place and a starting point for diversity.
Great. And so as you talked about the unique dynamics of your team being a majority Black and Latino team, how does that play into how you actually build out your product, work with people on your platform, even work with partnerships? Does that change the way that you work?
That's a really good question. And I think that our backgrounds obviously frame how we go about building this platform. And they definitely inform, I guess is the word I'm really looking for, how we make our decisions. But I think the interesting part about Jopwell is we are not looking to be kind of part of a corporate social responsibility. We're not looking to be kind of a program. We position ourselves as a tool to help HR and recruiting teams find the best talent. And so I think that that's a very, very colorblind goal that we really meet our companies with, because we want to position ourselves as a tool and a platform that really helps them do their job. Which I think is interesting because we're taking these experiences and being minorities, and we're helping companies really digest those insights to have better workforces.
And have you, like I said, you're head of partnerships. So have you had any challenges with working with companies who aren't as diverse?
That is a great question. And you know what? No, we haven't. The only pushback we ever get is we are trying to build this ourselves internally. And so, before you guys come in and and do it for us. Let us give it a shot. And so it's great because we haven't gotten the door closed on us. I
That's
think
awesome.
I think we're coming in at obviously a really the conversation nationally is really in our favor, and we're really trying to expand this notion that the minority employment gap is just in a specific sector like tech. And oftentimes companies think that it's just one specific area that's lacking in recruitment and hiring, but there's this giant minority employment gap in the country, and even for non-technical roles, legal roles, accountants, marketing, sales. There's a whole plethora of roles that companies can recruit underrepresented ethnic minorities for, that we think they're missing the boat on.
Okay. And for those who are watching through the live stream, again, just a reminder, you can ask questions. Use the icon that should be on the top of your screen. It's a 9-square icon. You click on it and it'll open up the Q&A interface, and you can ask questions there. So we're going to take one question. B wants to know, do you think it's possible for underrepresented minorities to be their true authentic selves in work environments that unfortunately do not have Jopwell's diversity?
That is a great question. And at some of my previous places of employment, truthfully, I didn't feel that I could be my authentic self until I met that one person who, whether because she was wearing, a Lauryn Hill kind of pin on her shirt, or had a Denman brush on her desk, had that cultural cue, that let me know, okay, we're gonna be friends. We're gonna be ourselves. I think that is so key. Even if you're at a company or you're in a, I grew up in schools where I didn't have a lot of people that looks like me. And I was really raised in the Japanese community. And it wasn't until really college that I got to immerse myself in the Black community. I think it's so important that you build community wherever you are. So me and my best friend at my first job out of school, we decided that we would, take up these issues with our managers, and that we would really try and improve access to internships and opportunities for other folks that looked like us and came from similar backgrounds. So, to answer the original question, is it difficult? It is difficult. Should you do it? 1,000%, 1,000%. Now there's a difference between should you pick your hair out and listen to Rakim around the office? I think no, that's sometimes, you could be a little obnoxious, but be yourself so that the company can grow stronger from having you as an employee, because that's really what companies are looking for. They're looking for people whose experiences and backgrounds and knowledge is really going to contribute to them identifying new markets, improving on products that might have missed the boat on a certain demographic. They're looking for that. And so I absolutely encourage you to explore being your authentic self at work. Great question.
Yeah. That actually reminds me of just in general, in terms of just being a Black face in a white place, right? It reminds me of one of my first companies where I worked at back in New Jersey, and we actually had this. It's kind of like an informal communication, like when you would walk past someone in a hall, and you just happen to notice, and you kind of give the informal nod or head, and then later in the day you kind of make sure that you connected with them, get your information. And we had this, it's really interesting because we started this email list, and it was just called POC, a POC email list. And it ended up growing really, really large. I don't know who was the creator of the email list, but it was an internal email list of just people that we would see in the hall and just automatically add them. And it became our own informal employee affinity group or employee resource group. And we would have these lunches, these mass lunches where 40 Black employees would show up.
Yeah.
And I think what was interesting is that at the same time, we didn't want to show that we were that we were meeting in front of our non-Black employees. So we would have these lunches, and we would put it on the calendar as POC meeting, building H. And, and so no one knew what was going on. And I think part of that was that, sometimes I don't know if you ever heard this, like, if you're at like a lunch table and there's too many Black people, they're like, oh, what are they doing? Like, are they plotting or something?
Yeah, they're going to protest.
And so, yeah, so we always went to an outside place. And that being said, I think, that was like 15 years ago. And that being said, I think things have changed just a bit. And I think a lot of companies are a little bit more open to, they have formal employee resource groups and affinity groups.
Definitely. And I think like even one step further from that, what I've learned is to bring in outside people to that lunch table and really test them and see kind of where they can also fit in the conversation and really try and, build bridges wherever you go. Totally.
Okay. All right. So reminder, anyone can ask questions. We have some viewers online. Just click the 9 square icon, ask your questions, and we'll be able to answer them. So how large is the team right now?
The team is, we just got to 10. We just hired our 10th person. Really, really exciting. We're going to be kicking off a content kind of portion and bringing in someone to do that. So we're really, really excited about our growth. But we're also hiring.
Yes. So let's talk about that. What are you hiring for?
Yeah, we are currently hiring a full stack engineer to join our tech team. Probably the most critical portion of our website, because we are a technology company, and it's the technology that really enables connections between the recruiters and the candidates. So Randy Brown he heads up our technology team. I'm more than happy to put anyone who's listening out there in touch with him. If you go to jopwell.com/careers, you can get a full job description as well for the actual role. And really just looking for someone who's mission driven. I think for people out there that are listening, the one thing that I learned in my, I've been in the workforce 6-7 years now, is there's such a difference between waking up in the morning and being driven to do what you do because there's a specific goal and mission that gets you out of bed in the morning versus knowing that maybe you're just, working for someone else to get to XYZ. So we're really looking just for people that understand our mission and are hungry and hopefully incredibly intelligent. And then on top of that, I'm building a sales team as well. And so really interested in connecting with folks that are interested in learning more about the platform, connecting us with companies, really, really interested in talking with anyone from the kind of HBCU kind of network who'd be interested in joining this team as well. And then a lot of other roles will be posted in the upcoming months.
Okay. And so you were employee number 3 or number 4?
Yes, number 3.
Okay. And how did you land at Jopwell?
That is a great question. And it speaks to, so I have this theory when people are like, you're so lucky. I think luck is obviously one part like serendipitous, but then I think there's like things that you can do to increase your luck. And it's happened to me several times over the course of my life where I truly believe in this, but I think you have to speak things into existence and then put yourself in a position to make that happen. So all of 2014, I was in Vietnam. Before that, I started my career at Google as an account manager. I left Google in 2013 and I did an English teaching Fulbright in Vietnam. And when I was in Vietnam, I got to work with international students who were trying to work in these big factories like LG and Samsung, making our cell phones and our computers, and amazing, amazing students, and got me really interested in working with international students, working in job preparation. And when I got back to America, I wanted to start my own basically consulting firm, helping women of color do something very similar to Jopwell. And I applied to graduate school. I got in, I was all set to go. And during the application process, I was telling everyone in my network what it is that I wanted to do, because I was hoping to get, job experience doing something, even if it was before I started grad school in this new area. And I mentioned this to my best friend, a former ex-Googler, and she happened to go to college with Porter Braswell, who's the CEO of Jopwell. And so I was in New York for a birthday party. I happened to be there, and I got coffee with Porter and Ryan, who are the 2 co-founders. And we just really hit it off from, it's going to sound so meta, but I think just like a really philosophical, like, why are you doing this? Like, why is this of interest to you? And our stories really aligned with each other. And so the next day, I skipped the birthday party early, and I put together a proposal of why, you know, they should have me on board, even for a short period of time. At that time, I was living on the West Coast in Los Angeles, and I really told them I would love to help launch, you know, the West Coast as a customer base for Jopwell, based on my network. And 3 months led to a full-time. Now I've been with the company a little over 9 months, and obviously not in grad school. And yeah, now we've grown from 4 to 10 in that 6-month period, which is crazy. And that's really how I even landed there. So, but it happened because my friend was visiting me. We went to the beach one day, and I told her what I wanted to do with my life, which was help underrepresented, diverse candidates with opportunities, period. And she said, you should meet with Porter and Ryan. And had I not known that idea or put it out into the world, I truly think that there's no way that connection would have been made, or would have been made too late. You know, it was just so ripe, where they were, where I was in my life and my career. That's kind of how it all happened.
Okay.
And so we I was crazy.
I can imagine like going to like a small company, especially with the background from Google. We could talk about that later.
Yeah.
So we have another question is, can you take us through the process of how Jopwell works to support individuals even after they create a profile?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So after you create your profile, that profile is then made searchable and filterable by our partner companies. So your profile is on the website. If I'm a partner customer, let's say I go in and I am looking for folks with a software engineering either background or maybe a major, that have already had a couple of years of experience and that have expressed specific interest in a specific industry. So again, you can express interest in entertainment, accounting, finance, law. Once that company, let's say I'm an entertainment company, once they actually do that search, they're able to find you. And then from that point, they can connect with you. They can encourage you to apply for a position. They might reach out to you to set up an interview or an informational. The other thing that you can do as a candidate is when you're on jopwell.com/app/partners, you'll be able to see all of our partner organizations. So even if you're sitting at your computer right now, you can go onto the website. In the right-hand corner, you can click and see all of our partner organizations. Every customer has an employer marketing page. And this really goes with our thesis, which is that, let's say I'm a major tech company, or let's say I'm a big accounting firm. It is very rare that those companies are able to market the breadth of opportunities and roles and jobs and divisions within their company. So let's say you're have a legal background. You didn't know that there might be a really specific position for you at a tech company. There might be a position for you at an entertainment company, maybe a talent agency or a publisher. The marketing page will give you a sense of what they actually do and what they actually recruit for. And then once you're on the employer page, you'll see in the upper right-hand corner, you can express interest in that company. So this is something that's really cool and what differentiates us. You can actually express interest in a company and they receive that interest. So you can select a specific division, leave a cover letter for why you're interested, and that company can actually receive that interest. And then from there, they can connect with you as they normally would.
Cool. Now we'll go to the next question.
Awesome.
What are the recommendations on standing out as a candidate when you don't have a STEM academic background, but you're attempting to attract tech companies specifically in the realm of human resources?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And it's a position that we recruit very actively for. So whoever that person was, feel free to reach out to me, after this hangout, Tani at Jopwell.com. And I would be happy to discuss some of the opportunities that I know that are on the platform. My biggest advice in this specific area, and I think it's where a lot of candidates, not only diverse, but period, kind of miss the mark, is making sure that their profile and their resume really aligns with the job description and requirements. If you put yourself in the mind of a recruiter, they want to find the best person for the role. And so even if you might not have the technical experience that makes you, you know, kind of stand out technically, you still offer experience that is very valuable to that company, right? Whether it's a different industry that you worked in that could be a crossover industry, whether it's a new perspective that you bring to this industry as an outsider, whether it's a project that you've worked on that it might not directly correlate, but it definitely has some crossover, whether that was like working in that industry, working with individuals or consumer base in that industry. It's finding those points of connection that will still make you stand out. You know, it's you can't use the same resume or the same cover letter for everyone. It's annoying, but you have to put in that work to make those connections. And then from there, that's what really helps us as we grow the platform, help you, because we're able to communicate a lot of those differentiators to our partner customers.
And so I actually want to go back to what you said before in terms of, one, you have experience because you used to work at Google, and now you're at a smaller startup. And you mentioned something briefly in terms of like, oh, your parents were upset about, you know, when you first joined. And I actually find that common when we talk to a lot of minority students or even professionals and what they're looking for and a career. At this point, you know, they see like the larger tech companies as like Google or Facebook as being quote unquote stable versus going to like a smaller startup because there's higher risk.
Yeah.
And what is your advice when talking specifically to young people of color or people who are transferring into the tech industry? How should they evaluate that decision for themselves versus going to like a larger company versus looking at opportunities at smaller tech startups?
Yeah. I always make a lot of lists. And what I always try and balance when I'm looking at opportunities, period, is the people, the price. So that's the opportunity cost to myself financially, time, kind of commitments, and then the opportunity to grow. So those three things: people, price, and place, really is what I call it, like opportunity to grow and change. And those three have to align, or else you're not going to be happy. You might think you're going to be happy because you have this awesome risk in front of you. But my perspective has always been that the people that you work with have to be awesome, and they have to be people that you would trust, regardless if this is a company that you're going to, you know, spend a big chunk of your life and your energy into, but you have to trust them as like human beings. Second is that price. Is the time and the financial kind of, you know, incentives, do they align with what is realistic to you right now? You don't want to starve yourself. You also know that you don't need to ball out on a ridiculous salary right now. If you're at a certain stage, you might also have a significant other or a child that you have to take care of. So that's something to consider. And then upside, which is just like, how much are you going to learn? How much are you going to be pushed? In case, if this doesn't work out, do you at least have now all of these brand new experiences that will make you stand out in the next opportunity, should that arise? So I really urge people to just always consider the people they're working with, the price that it's going to cost to your life, and then the opportunity for learning. And if you can get those three to balance out, you're going to be happy, and then your parents are going to be happy. So that's really, you know, what matters at the end of the day. And that happiness is going to drive you being successful. Yeah.
And so I think you talked a little bit about this in terms of finding that role. What's the best way to find that role? I know you talked about either joining a platform, but what are other ways?
It's a great idea. And I think it goes back to the person, whoever asked that question about, you know, if you might not come from a tech company, but maybe you have a background in HR, you want to get into HR. I was just thinking about that as well while I was speaking. I would make a list, sit down and make a list about all of the things that are the most important to you in this new job or in this new career. And then I would make another list that just lists out your skills, basically, and what you're really, really, really good at. at some point in the job hunt, when you're evaluating companies and you're evaluating roles, you want to make sure that those two are somewhat aligning with what it is you're being asked to do. So I have a friend, and she joined this this startup that does hooks boutiques up with a marketplace, and they have her doing customer service. And she is just not an extroverted person, but she has to talk to like 200 people a day. And she's miserable because that's just not her role. She would have done better, I think, in something more internal facing, right? Something revolving strategy, something involving, something maybe internally facing to the staff. And so you have to know what it is about you that you're good at and that you want to be doing, so that when you're actually in the role, even if it's not perfect, you know that you're going to be able to adapt and you're going to enjoy yourself. So, for that person in HR, you still have amazing experience in HR. So I would really, really, crank that up and really pull that apart and really explain, quantitatively and qualitatively, why are you really good at HR? Because good companies will be able to see that and apply that to the role. And then for folks looking at roles, align those skills and those traits with what it is that you're looking for.
And do you have any tips in terms of if someone isn't yet qualified for the role that they're looking at, what can they do to make themselves either qualified or more attractive?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm such a big proponent of, you can call them internships, but experiences that basically improve your skills. Sometimes, knock on wood, they're paid. Other times they're not. When I was in school, I really wanted this Nike internship, and I had no marketing experience at all. And I worked really, really, really hard to develop a relationship with the recruiter at Nike. And she told me, look, you have no marketing experience. And so I asked her, what do I need to do to be considered, qualified for this position? And she told me, well, you need marketing experience. You should work with a brand. You should work in some form of sales or customer service, so we can see that that's on your resume. And so I went out and I found an internship on Craigslist, which you don't have to do anymore because Jopwell's here. But this is how, in the olden days, 10 years ago, you had to do it. And I got an internship with this jewelry company that was close to my house. And I did everything for them, like sales, customer service, like branding, marketing. And then 6 months later, I knocked on the recruiter's door and I said, I did exactly what you told me. So you should give me the internship. And she didn't give it to me, but she had me interview with the guy who would be my manager, and I got the internship. So one, it's about establishing relationships. And two, it's about asking what the company or the individual is really looking for, and then doing your best to get experiences that align with that. I think that's something people forget all the time. They think that, like, I can just do marketing at this company because I'm a social person. Well, but you need to show that experience, because a lot of what hiring is about is making sure that when that person's in the role, they're going to be successful at it. So they want to see that you've done it before, even, in whatever capacity. And they want to see that you can apply A to B.
Okay. And then you mentioned that was like one of your internships. Can you talk about the internship opportunities that Jopwell offers with this partner company?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, we have currently almost 40 partner companies. Almost all of them, I know at least half, are offering summer internships for students that are currently in school. I highly suggest people to go to jopwell.com and go to the job board that's actually listed on the website, which is another way for companies to basically market all of their internships. The big thing to think about for students, and also there's a ton of recent grad opportunities, is sometimes what you're studying might not, you might not think that you could be a good candidate for an internship. Sometimes if you're a liberal arts major, you can absolutely apply for a technology internship. If you have, background, maybe that's not just tech related, but you've still taken, math or physics or classes that can still relate to engineering type programs, then you should absolutely apply for an engineering program. And so right now we have a ton of engineering programs. We have a ton of also non-technical programs that are really specific, focused on certain divisions, like, media or accounting, and, have a really specific focus. A lot of these deadlines are around November 1st. So this is kind of perfect timing for a lot of students. If you're out there and you're listening, go to Jopwell and look at our partner companies. You can filter by geographic location. You can filter by job role, job type. And if you have kind of further questions, again, absolutely feel free to reach out to me. But we are heavy into recruitment season for our partner companies. And so if there is a company there that you're interested in, that you would like to learn more information, definitely reach out to me. Again, we have everything from finance to tech to we just partnered with one of our first kind of hedge funds, if that interests you. Entertainment, really, we run the gamut on our industries. So, and very, very, some new partnerships to come that we're really, really excited about.
And then I don't know if you talked briefly about where you guys are located now.
Yes, so we are geographically located in New York City. I'm a born and bred West Coaster and will always be. So we're based in the financial district. We're, knock on wood, moving to a new office in the next couple of weeks. But we have a large presence all over the country. So we have partner companies in the Midwest, partner companies on the West Coast. Something to really think about if you're currently in school, or maybe you're in a geographic area and you just don't know much about what it's like to live in the Bay Area. Definitely just do your research. We can make whatever introductions might be necessary to learn more about the culture of the area. But I think oftentimes it's really difficult for underrepresented candidates to really feel like they're going to be welcome in maybe a foreign area. And I know it's scary. I just moved out to New York after I graduated and kind of told my parents I had a job, and I had no such job, but I moved out there and it was really kind of a freak accident how I ended up at Google, which is why this has always been such an important project for me, making sure that underrepresented candidates have the same opportunities, because it was just very hard to come by when I first graduated, because there was no central location to know companies that really do care about diversity and inclusion and are actively out there. They've literally hired diversity recruiters to come and look for you. So it's important that you make yourself seen, and that when you are seen, you're in a position to be successful.
And so honestly, most of the people that I know in the community that we work with, most of them are actually East Coast based, and they're curious about the cultural differences working on the West Coast. You actually did the opposite. So you are a West Coast girl, and then you went out to the East Coast. What are some of the, just from your personal observation, what are some of the things that you've noticed that are culturally different in terms of working in tech on, each coast?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I don't want to say that it's just like a cultural question, but I just love like the get it done mentality of working on the East Coast. Even, I was in tech, but I was on the East Coast. There's a very definite vibe to the office in New York City versus the office in California. And it was so funny being in Y Combinator this summer. We were in San Francisco, and everyone except for me and one other coworker is practically a New Yorker. And they just weren't used to the bars and restaurants closing so early, and, the fact that, there's a lot of camping and, and it's really different. But I love working with them because it's that New York mentality of we can get it done at any hour. So I like to think that I bring a West Coast mentality to the company, but we very much operate as a New York City business, which is great, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's the diversity in your team. The different mentalities between East Coast, West Coast, which are very different.
Yeah, and it totally is. And we have people from backgrounds from, HBCUs, the Ivy League, like, state schools. So it's completely different experience that people bring. And again, it just kind of speaks to how important it is to have that different experience diversity when you're building a product, because we all have very different experiences. So it's important that we have all of that.
Okay. And so just in case, I think there are a few other people who just joined us. But if you want to ask a question, there is a 9 square icon on the top of your screen. If you click on it, it'll open up the question and answer interface where you could answer a question. Okay. So you talked about, let's see, did we miss anything so far? Talked about, I know.
A lot.
Yeah. Let's talk about entrepreneurship.
Okay.
So there are definitely a lot of people who have joined the call in terms of are looking to work at startups, but there are also some people who are looking in terms of starting their own tech company. Any tips or advice for them?
Yeah, it's great. It's really exciting. It continues to boggle my mind how few of us there are, like, entrepreneurs, owners in this specific space. And so it's really exciting. There's a few other companies that I can think about, minority owned business that are, I hate the word disrupt, but that are disrupting certain industries. And I think it's so important that I think oftentimes people, not just people of color, but underrepresented folks, we know that the burden and the risk is heavier on us if we don't succeed. And I've seen that deter a lot of people. And I think it's really important when you get involved, making sure that you're not just relying on just that network of other people of color, and keeping it kind of in this small incubated community. I think it's really important that you position yourself, even if you're a product that's going to focus on one specific segment. It's getting investors and marketers and publishers and people writing articles to see that your overarching mission is to be an entrepreneur. And so at the end of the day, what you contribute to the economy, what you contribute to the conversation goes so much beyond, just that you are Black or that you are Native American or you are Latino. That will forever be the place that you will come from, that makes you unique and that makes you sought after. But I think that it's important to expand your network and to try as hard as you can to appeal to investors, to an audience that is wide and diverse, because I think it's so important for us to get that visibility, that extra visibility that we're not getting, and to really break the mold of just being considered, a Black company. You will figure that out as you build out your product. You will know who your niche audience is. It might also surprise you, who actually is using your product. But my advice is when you're going and you're asking for money and you're increasing that network is don't limit yourself, and don't think that you should only circumscribe yourself to one specific community. You will never know where your investment is going to come from, and you'll never know who your likeliest ally is going to be. And obviously until that contract is signed, you have to be careful about who you obviously put your trust in. But in my short-lived experiences, and we're going to be announcing our investors really soon for this kind of first major seed raise that we've done, you really don't know who's going to come to bat until it actually happens. Yeah.
I think that's very, very a valid point in terms of looking outside of the community instead of staying insular to, especially staying insular to like the Black community and branding yourself as just a Black company, even if that might be your target audience. Drawing on allies and supporters from outside the community is very important.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for like expanding that network, or even, I would even say, what are tips? Like, let's say even if you are building a product for for a Black, your target audience is a Black audience.
Yeah.
But you're meeting with investors who may not be Black or may not understand the insular details of your target audience. Any tips for one, networking outside of your immediate demographic, and two, convincing others why this is, especially your investors or anyone to join your team, why this is more than just a Black company or a Black product?
Absolutely, absolutely. So my advice on the first point is all about the story. So in my opinion, every great company has come from a story. And it's a story about a problem that was really dire. And so someone had to come together to try and fix it. And they weren't trying to fix it because they saw this financial incentive. They were genuinely trying to fix a problem. Jopwell was trying to fix a problem, right? I got my first job out of school because I met a recruiter on Craigslist who happened to be filling temp positions for a big tech company. So this was a problem that was really annoying, that for me to find companies who had specific diversity and inclusion programs, initiatives, goals, there was nowhere for me to go. And even once I was on their company website, how do I even penetrate that to make sure that my story is being told? That's kind of the origin story of Jopwell. So when I tell that story to an investor, to someone who might be able to assist with our partnership efforts, that's the story that they gravitate to. They don't gravitate to a story that's just, black and white or black and black. They gravitate to me trying to solve a problem. And I would say when you get to that, it comes off as so authentic. People just want to hear a good story. That's what gets them hooked in. And that's what gets them thinking, like, if this is a problem for you, think about the myriad of other people that are probably facing the same problem who aren't nearly as extroverted and crazy about job searching that you are. They just kind of are hitting one wall and they're being turned off. And that's when you start to get the dialogue going, and that's when you start to get people curious. And when they stumble on a really authentic issue, right? If you're a sneaker collector and you just have trouble getting the newest sneaker, you have trouble selling the latest sneaker, people gravitate towards this story, and they want to build solutions through either community or resources or investments. They want to genuinely help solve that story. Is really how I would kind of tackle that. And then in regards to your second one, we had this phrase at Google that was called moonshots. And a moonshot was an idea that was so crazy, the end goal was just landing on the moon somewhere really far out. And I look at Elon Musk, and I'm like, that dude was crazy. He had these crazy ideas, but what having a big crazy idea does is it separates you from everyone else who's on land and everyone else that doesn't have that crazy idea. And then if you can meet that other person that's like, yeah, that's a crazy idea, but I have this little insight that might make this small portion of your crazy idea actually work. And then you guys become friends, and then you start to attract maybe that one investor that's like, this is something I've been thinking about for a really long time. And you guys have this expertise and you have all these insights. Maybe we can actually, make this work. And so I think it's continuing to dream big, but to have those dreams be based on real world problems and insights that you actually are stumbling upon, because that's going to lead you to build a good product if you can continue to act on that.
Right. That was actually a really, really good explanation. And so I'm going to this is our final question. It's probably the toughest question coming up. But it's a good question. So as a multiracial person, you mentioned that your mother's Japanese American and your father is African American. How do you navigate that Asian folks, specifically East and South Asian, fare well, specifically not limited to tech? Meanwhile, Black communities statistically are struggling.
Yeah. It is a great question. It's something that morally I fight with all the time. But really how I answer that is, the Asian community where we really struggle is in politics. the African American community, I'll take my home state of California, for example. You know, Asians make up a large proportion, and yet our political representation is incredibly low. So in my off hours from Jopwell, I'm involved in a lot of kind of political activism for my Asian side, which is really funny. And so for me, how I navigate that is always making sure that what I'm involved in personally, then the conversations that I'm contributing to, I try and hold myself responsible for the biggest problems. In the Asian community, and I'm Japanese American, it's a very, very big issue, the lack of political involvement of Asians and Asian Americans in cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles, where we make up such a sizable part of the community, or where certain geographic areas that were traditionally Asian have now been changing. And for me, when I look at industries, you know, like finance, technology, and you look at the numbers where I see the biggest need and the biggest call to action is for the most underrepresented ethnic minorities, for me, which means folks that self-identify as being Black, Latino, Hispanic, and Native American. And diverse groups mean so many different things. I think if I came from another background, I would feel compelled to really stand up and fight for those reasons as well. But how I really answer that question is I hold myself responsible for both sides of who I am and both sides of my family. And I really try and provide really practical solutions and dedicate my life towards improving the position of both sides of those people. So it's a really, really good question. It's something I think about all the time. Something my coworkers ask me all the time, like, do you feel more like Black today? I'm like, no, like I feel Japanese and Black. Like
there is no separation. It's funny because someone asked me a question that was somewhat similar at one point. They asked me, you know, do you find it more difficult being a Black developer or a female developer?
Right.
And I was like, well, I can't turn one off, you know, so there is no like, oh, you know, I'm feeling extra Black today versus I'm feeling extra female today. Yeah, I'm a Black female. And so there is no turning one off.
Exactly. And I think the constant challenge for me is just like making sure that I'm holding myself accountable for like the struggles and the responsibilities that come with being both. Mm-hmm. And I think that I just wouldn't feel myself if I was solely focused on one specific area or not.
Okay. Well, that is just about it. Before we go, I want to just kind of like do a recap in terms of how people can reach out to you.
Absolutely.
What you're looking for and where they should go visit the site.
Absolutely. So you can reach me at Tani, my first name, Tani, at jopwell.com. I'm on I try and not sleep next to my phone, kind of a mindfulness thing, but I will absolutely get back in touch with you. We're also hiring campus ambassadors for Jopwell. You get an awesome t-shirt and a really great kind of relationship with the team here at Jopwell because we're very hands-on, very grassroots. HBCU is our next kind of big focus. We had a couple folks at Spell House this past weekend.
Spell House. With the homecoming. It is Spell House.
With the homecoming and you know, anything really related to using the platform, again, being an ambassador, questions about your own career. It's what we do, and it's what gets us out of bed in the morning. So I would love to hear from each of you. And I just also wanted to thank you for putting this together. I think things like this are so important, and it's so important to bridge our communities and just talk candidly about the things that we're facing.
Well, thank you. And I want to thank everyone who tuned in on a Sunday night. Sundays are pretty hard, but from what I hear from most people, it's easier than other nights. So thank you. And I guess we'll connect with Tani and stay connected with us. Visit hbcu2startups.com or follow us on Twitter. And we'll talk soon.
Awesome.
Bye.
Yes. Thank you. See everyone later.